Hello and welcome to the White Collar Fitness Radio, the ultimate podcast for professionals striving to achieve optimal performance in today's fast-paced age. I'm your host, Bruno Dalladoni, online body transformation specialist and founder of The Health Coach Fitness. I'm here to help you optimize your health and fitness, even if you're short on time. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're discussing walking for fat loss and recovery. So we've spoken loads about walking a bit more, making sure that maybe you get off one tube station before you would normally, so you can get an extra few steps and all of these things. So today, I thought we could dive in a little bit more and have a look at why walking is so underrated. So first things first, it's low impact. So your joints will thank you. Knees, hips, ankles, back, all of these beautiful and sexy things. But it is high return. Turns out you do actually use some decent enough amount of calories that walking more would probably benefit everyone. Walking, like I say, has minimal stress on your joints. And unlike running or high intensity interval training, it's gentle enough that you can do every day with, I'm not going to say no risk of injury, because we do know those clumsy people out there might trip and crack their skull open. But assuming you're not that clumsy, it's actually fairly low risk of injury, right? So walking, low impact, medium to high return on your investment, as it were. Obviously, everybody can do it, shy of you being disabled. And if you are, I apologize. But shy of that, everybody can do it, right? Young, old, mildly ill. Obviously, if you're on your deathbed, maybe don't do that. But even if you have a cold, perhaps walking out, getting some fresh air might not be the worst idea. And it can very easily be adapted. You can walk a bit faster, you can walk a bit slower, you can have bigger strides, you can have shorter strides. It doesn't matter, as long as you're out and you are moving. Now, fat loss benefits. So we always talk about calories out. Now, and I'm sure I've said this before, the calories out part of the equation, as in the calories that you burn, the calories that you're using up, it has four things to it. It could be a MAR, so just your metabolism, basically, like you're surviving, breathing. NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. TEF, which stands for thermic effect of food. And then EAT, or EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis. And they all play different parts in your total calorie output. And you have those two bits. You have your non-exercise activity thermogenesis and you have your exercise activity thermogenesis. What's the difference? I want you to think about your exercise activity thermogenesis as your formal exercise. I go to the gym to do X, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's running, whether it's whatever, it doesn't matter. It's purposeful exercise. Your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, on the other hand, is day-to-day movement that isn't formal exercise. Walking from your tube station to work, going shopping, taking the kids out, right? All that stuff is activity, but it's not really formal exercise. And I will say the lines are somewhat blurry in what counts as exercise and non-exercise. Martin MacDonald of Mac Nutrition fame tends to break the non-exercise activity thermogenesis part of this into two. Into NEAT, as in non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and then NENAT, non-exercise, non-activity thermogenesis. And so the reason he breaks that down is to really differentiate between what one might then classify as non-exercise activity, as in activity that isn't formal exercise. So you're walking or you're playing with your kids, and non-activity, which would be things that are completely subconscious, things like you fidgeting, right? Or tapping your feet on the floor when you're just sat down. So he then breaks it down further. Is that really necessary? Not really, unless you are a fitness professional working with some potentially bodybuilders or athletes where you may or may not want to get granular about their calorie expenditure. But is it necessary? Not really. Nonetheless, I diverge. The reason for us focusing on this non-exercise activity thermogenesis part is because really, this is where your walking would fall in. It's not formal exercise as such, although it can be if you plan to go for an intense hike, let's say. But as a general rule, it's not. And upping your upping your step count on a day-to-day basis is actually massively underrated for fat loss. You're increasing your expenditure. It's very low impact. It's not really cardio as such. So obviously, it all depends on how many steps you do. So if you start off today, you do 5,000, and then for the next week, you do 20,000 steps a day every day, maybe you will be a little extra hungry. But if you just bump it up from 5,000 to 7,500 or even 10,000, you shouldn't really trigger too much of a hunger response, which win-win. Also very steady, like already very low impact, so everybody can do it. So it's one of those things that's actually quite a hanging fruit for a lot of people. I was talking to a client yesterday, and on average, for the past year, she's literally done less than 5,500 steps a day. Now, it doesn't really matter too much for her because her goal wasn't fat loss. But if her goal had been fat loss, we would be increasing that expenditure on a really low effort kind of way. And please, this count one or the other, right? I see people sometimes, they're like, oh, my PT has increased my steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use on the treadmill, use my steps as my cardio. No, they're separate metrics, just unless otherwise specified by your own personal trainer. But I separate those metrics. Just FYI. Anyway, walking is fantastic for your recovery and your mental wellness. So it can potentially reduce your DOMS, so your delayed onset muscle soreness, that soreness you get after you've trained, the day after, a couple of days after, because light movement increases blood flow, and having more blood means more nutrients, and more nutrients means more recovery. Not only that, it will also help clear out any waste products that may be still lingering around those tissues, and all of that will help recovery. Naturally can help with a bit of stress relief and mental clarity. So take a walk, brisk walk, outdoors if you can, lower cortisol, which is one of your stress hormones, and just allow you a little bit of a mental refresh. Breathe, obviously big, deep breaths will help with this as well. And if you want to take this stress relief, mental clarity to the next level, I'm actually going to suggest what my good friend and fellow coach Camille has suggested of CT fame is Raw Dog your walk and go without your phone, without social media, without podcast, without headphones, just literally you and your thoughts, and allow your brain to just parcel out and organize those thoughts. And naturally, if you're not exercising today, if it's a rest day, what a fantastic way to have an active rest. Go for your walk, go for your let's say, you're still getting your steps in, you're still getting out of the house or out of the office, and it doesn't have to be formal exercise. Obviously, goes without saying, a bit of walking doesn't in fact replace your formal exercise. Still have to lift. But as an active rest day, fantastic option. So the question then is, how do you incorporate more walking? Micro walks, fantastic. So I like to think these as either water breaks or toilet breaks. So if you're sat there at your desk, smashing workout, have a little timer every hour, 90 minutes, even a couple of hours to get up, go to the loo, go get some water, make that a 5 to 10 minute little walk around the office, stretch your legs. One, your back your hips, your knees, all of those guys will thank you for it anyway. But also, again, you're just getting out, moving a bit, allowing some blood flow to happen. Also, you stop you, and this is primarily for the ladies out there, will stop you feeling so cold all the time when you're just sat at a desk. If you sit at a desk, and I'm definitely not calling out my wife here, but if you just sit at a desk for like 4 hours solid, not moving, of course you're going to be cold, right? You need some blood flow to be able to generate some heat. Anyway, next one, after micro walks, post-meal walks. You've had your lunch, you've had your breakfast, you had your dinner, whatever, don't mind. But you've had some food. Again, 10 to 15 minutes, just go for a little stroll. It'll help you digest your food. It'll ideally stop you from grazing in the kitchen. And again, you're upping your steps. Obviously, if you want a bit more of a challenge or you want something a little bit more planned, you've always got your hikes and your long walks for the weekend or after work, depending on your lifestyle. And these guys, I have to say, these are a fantastic way to actually go and explore new places you haven't been to. So I'm in London. My wife and I went into central London last weekend. And we found like 3 different parks we didn't know existed because we're just like, let's go and have a look. Let's explore. We live in the city, but we're barely ever in the city. Let's find some new places. Anyway, we did that. We must have walked for about 3 hours. By the end of the day, we'd both done over 15,000 steps, right? And it was really fun. We stopped for coffee in the process. We found some new parks. So incorporate exploring as well into your weekend. If you have kids, what a fantastic way to keep the kids entertained. Make it a little bit of a challenge for them. I don't know, maybe a hunt type thing. I don't know. I'm not a parent yet, but it's just an idea. And of course, these days, everybody has a step tracker on their phone, right? If you have a smartwatch, even better. But otherwise, most phones will track your steps. I mean, how those are is a separate discussion, but they'll do a good enough job, assuming you keep your phone on you. And so, something that you're trying to do, increase your step count, and keep an eye on your previous week's average, on your previous month's average, and just bump it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be crazy, right? Whenever you talk to people always think you have to throw the kitchen sink at it. Going from 5,000 to 7,500, you've increased your walking by 50%, right? Like, think about that way. So it doesn't have to be mental. And we're talking 2,500 steps is 20-minute walk? So for a lot of people, that is in fact just increasing, walking one extra tube stop length to work and back. Doesn't have to be crazy. So anyway, track your steps, have a look at how you're doing, bump it up a little bit, see how that goes, see how we feel, and then try again. So action steps, guys. If you're tracking your steps, seeing how you're progressing, set a goal, start with where you are at the moment, bump it up by somewhere between 10 and 20%. So if you're doing 10,000 steps, do 11,000, 12,000. If you're doing 5,000, maybe do 7. If you're doing 7, maybe 9. Right? It doesn't have to be nuts. Plan your walks. So add walking sessions to your calendar between meetings, after food, whatever it is. But just do a little bit. Do your micro walks in the office every hour and a half. So you can stretch your legs, get some blood flowing, loosen up your muscles. Again, like I said, your back will thank you, your hips will thank you. You get some water. Hydration is a whole separate subject. We'll be doing another episode on. Get some water, go to the loo. Lovely jubbly. Combine your walking with your strength training. Maybe you don't have time to do some walking during the day. So go, lift some weights, and then walk on a treadmill for 20 minutes at the end. Put an episode of Friends or whatever it is that you like to watch that makes you laugh and completely distracts you from the fact that you are in the gym walking on a treadmill. Just do that. It's fine. And then, as always, what I like to say is we can track, can manage where you have data on. So track, reflect, and adjust. Keep an eye on how you're feeling. if you're more energetic or less sore, if you're on track or not on track, adjust the goal, your step goal, and the intensity as and when you need to, and keep a track of your progress. That's it for today's episode, guys, on how underrated benefits of walking for fat loss and recovery. It doesn't all have to be sprints and barbells. Sometimes a simple walk can do wonders for both your body and mind. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend and leave a review. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram at Bruno Dalladoni for more tips and daily fitness insights. And if you want to level up your fitness even further, head over to my website, www.brunodalladoni.co.uk, for coaching options and additional resources. Until next time, guys, stay active, stay healthy, and keep walking your way toward these goals.